We're joined now by the Executive Director of Corruption Watch, Lebogang Ramafoko. Good evening to you and thank you for your time. Essentially, Judge Raulinga's role can be likened to the police that police the police, akin to what IPID perhaps does, except the police in this case that he's supposed to police are supposedly one of those specialist units in our country tasked with uprooting the scourge of corruption. What's your assessment of the need for and likely impact of an oversight judge such as we have in place now for IDAC?
Thank you for having me. So when, after the Zondo Commission, IDAC was made into a permanent structure in 2024, the Office of the Ombuds was also established in that same legislation. And it is really to ensure that there is accountability. But IDAC itself has really struggled with, getting the personnel that it needs, because there was an identification that in order for us to fight corruption as a country, you needed a unit that specializes in corruption, but a unit that will have an ombuds person. It has taken us over 18 months to 2 years to establish the Office of the Ombuds. Even right now, it sounds like it is just a reaction to what we have seen happening at IDAC. And so one has to ask why it has taken us so long. But the other matter, and that is why the NPA has wanted to be independent, is the fact that everything goes through the Department of Justice. And it has, even from finding offices, we have seen how, that has taken time, how the appointments have taken time, etc. So there is absolutely a valid reason, as it was agreed upon in 2024 and made into law, to have, an ombuds where, you could have somebody almost overseeing those that are investigating corruption. But it's only been established now, and even now, the retired judge is in place. But if you asked whether or not that Office of the Ombudsman has all the personnel it needs for its oversight role, because it's only been done now, which seemingly looks like a reaction to some of the problems that is happening in IDAC, the answer would be no. And so without this oversight role, we are now hearing at the Madlanga Commission just how IDAC itself became a law upon itself.
Yeah. In fact, just to ask you to complete that point, why are the already existing oversight mechanisms, for instance, inside the National Prosecuting Authority, their ethics office, not sufficient for what is essentially a unit within the NPA? Does it have to do with the powers that they have?
It is about the complexity of the work that they are supposed to do. Here is a unit that was established, and I think there was a recognition from the Zondo Commission already that in order, fighting corruption is complex. You are seeing just how organized crime had infiltrated the police. Even the NPA, one would have said, well, IDAC is there, it's a temporary body, let us, just make sure that it is there. But imagine right now with what we are seeing in IDAC, some of the cases, or from the Madlanga Commission, some of the corruption cases that basically span even outside the police and probably even some people high up in power. You wanted to make sure that IDAC itself acts beyond reproach, and there is an ombuds that looks at the cases that they are taking on, at the thoroughness of their investigations, and it reports specifically on corruption to Parliament and the Portfolio Committee. The fact that we did not have it has opened what one believes, became a unit that was set up to fight corruption that found itself messed up and almost implicated in some of the corruption that is alleged at the Madlanga Commission. So the specialist nature of what it was set up to do meant that it's not only ethics, it's about really making sure that what they investigate, what they basically take to court is really tight, and it really is beyond reproach.
So Judge Raulinga is being very careful not to promise to intervene in the current ongoing and well-documented controversies plaguing IDAC, be it around the investigating director, Advocate Andrea Johnson, or indeed the controversial investigation and arrest of people like General Dumisani Khumalo, Brigadier Mokwele, and others, as attested to by the IDAC investigator Brian Padayachi in the last few days. But can he, though? Can the oversight judge avoid entering the fray on those matters purely on the basis that they are under investigation by the Commission, and still at the same time maintain the goodwill and understanding of his office's mandate, especially with the public? Can he sidestep these issues?
I don't think he can sidestep, but I can understand why he is careful. You know, here is a person that has just recently been appointed as the ombuds. As I said earlier, it sounds like this is a soft launch. It sounds like, you know, he hasn't really set up and has the necessary support structures that will enable him to look at the matters. And that is why the minister and Advocate Andy Mutibi are the ones right now who are saying, what are the implications? I don't think that he can continue sidestepping the matter, because I think with the concern that has been raised, I mean, it's been very clear at the Madlanga Commission that IDAC itself has not covered itself in glory. It has not done what it was meant to do in the way that it was run. And I think, you know, the minister, the ombuds, and Ndade Andy Mutibi are going to have to sit down and say what is the, you know, the way forward with where reputationally IDAC is finding itself. IDAC, where I agree with him, is a body, it remains independent, but all the challenges of establishing IDAC ought to be investigated so that it's strong and so that the Ombud can also act appropriately.
So just a final one then. Judge Raulinga himself already sailing into a bit of stormy waters, at least politically, with the MK party's Mzwane Lemanyi MP already objecting to his appointment on the basis that Judge Raulinga previously disclosed a decades-old friendship with President Ramaphosa and that he, the judge, previously voted for the ANC. How crucial is it for the work at hand that Judge Raulinga addresses this frontally and answers all questions concerned, as well as the other role players, the minister, around the processes leading up to the appointment of Judge Raulinga?
I guess in politics, there will always be those that really applaud an appointment and those that are going to point at, you know, why a person cannot be appointed. I think it's early days. I think the fact that he has had a friendship, the fact that he voted one party or the other, should not detract us from the work at hand. What we want to see is him establishing a very strong, capable, and well-resourced office of the Ombudsman, and acting in a way in which that office is seen not to act you know, with any fear or favor. That should be, you know, the only judgment that we have. Of course, you know, he's coming in at a time when IDAC itself is under scrutiny, and it must be very difficult. I think for me, and I think civil society organizations who know that this ombuds was announced in 2024, want to see it established properly, want to see the appointments in IDAC done in such a way that we've got credible people who head up these appointments and they are doing the job that they were meant to do.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you for your time and your insights. That's the Executive Director of Corruption Watch, Lebogang Ramafoko, weighing in on some of what came out of Judge Raulinga's briefing earlier on, as well as the processes around setting up the IDAC Ombud office.